agreements between the two countries. The fourth edition of the Intra-African Trade Fair IITF 2025 was used for the third day at the exhibition hall here in Algiers with a focus on intra-African finances and services. Arab states and the international community have strongly rejected the Israeli occupation's displacement plans. Hello and welcome on Radio Algeria International. I'm Mariam Bershi. The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, and the President of Mozambique, Daniel Chapo, have presided over the signing ceremony for agreements between the two countries. Algeria and Mozambique signed an executive program in the field of culture and the arts for the period 2025 to 2028. They also signed a cooperation protocol between Algerian and Mozambican radio stations and an agreement in the field of information and communication between the two countries. Algeria and Mozambique also signed a cooperation agreement in the fields of higher education, scientific research, security and public order, as well as a memorandum of understanding on political consultations between the two countries. Earlier, the two presidents examined detachment from the various branches of the People's National Army. The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has ordered the opening of a direct air route to the Chadian capital, N'Djamena, with a view to strengthening ties between the peoples of the two countries. During a visit on Thursday to the pavilions of the Intra-African Trade Fair at the exhibition hall, the President of the Republic urged Chairman and CEO of Air Algérie to open a trade air route to N'Djamena, emphasizing the need to make this route one of the company's priorities. The President of the Republic also ordered the provision of a port dedicated to cement exports. The startup and medical reagent manufacturing pavilion, the President and at the startup and medical reagent manufacturing pavilion, the President of the Republic praised the significant progress made by these companies, which are able to meet the needs of the national market. The President of the Republic listened to presentations provided by national African and international economic companies participating in the event. The President of the Republic stopped at the electronics industry stand and then at the major construction company stand, where he received explanations on the major make project being carried out in Algeria before visiting the African Union stand. The fourth edition of the Intra-African Trade Fair IITF 2025 was used for the third day at the exhibition hall here in Algiers. The exhibitors in different sectors and services are showcasing their products at the fair, being an opportunity to highlight Africa's potential and attract intra-African collaboration. Kuela Wahali Shufala, Director of Trade at the ECOWAS Abuja, has this to say about his participation at the fair to our colleague Saha Hallel.
ECOWAS has participated in every edition, and here in particular, our participation at this event is to promote investments in made in ECOWAS products and also to fast track the integration of the products that we have already from our MSMEs, our micro, small and medium enterprises, to the continent and also beyond the continent. We hope that our participation will eventually translate into increased volume and value of trade in ECOWAS products to the continental market and also beyond, as I've mentioned. For us at the Commission, trade is at the heart of our regional integration agenda. ECOWAS this year turns 50 years since our establishment, and at the heart of our treaty is how to ensure we promote economic integration.
Nakusahiwa from the Bank of Malawi spoke about her institution's aspirations by taking part in the AITF 2025.
As a bank, we're expecting to expose and bring what National Bank of Malawi does out into the intra-African market, because we see that there's so many delegates from so many different countries that are being represented here, so many investors that would want to invest back home in Malawi, and they will need a financial services solutions partner. National Bank of Malawi is more than just a bank. It's a one-stop financial services solutions provider for different needs and requirements, and therefore we're an ideal investment partnership arm for whoever would want to come back home to invest in Malawi. As a bank, we're also moving in the region. Currently, we're in Tanzania, and we're expecting to move into Zambia and Mozambique and other places. Mm-hmm. So we know that we're going to meet counterparts from these countries here at this fair, and we look forward to engaging in meaningful conversations with these people. Mm-hmm.
Ghanaian chef Wisdom is one of the African participants showcasing the rich African food and is to participate in the culinary competition taking place at the fair.
They are all striving for those trophies, but for me it is way beyond this. It is building a solid culinary foundation here in Africa. And for me, food is part of our culture. Food is who we are. Food is identity. Food is politics. Food is everything. And to see young ones here taking part and showing their passion and love for food truly shows who we are as Africans. This is happening today, and for tomorrow we'll be having a jollof competition, which I'll be taking part. I'll be representing Ghana. There are chefs from Senegal, chefs from Nigeria. There's also a Surinamese chef as well. We are doing this. We're going to be using a lot of African ingredients and spices, just to say that we are one people. Food connects people, and that's the main essence of why we are here.
Our reporter Mohammed Khatel is there to keep us updated about the event. Hi Mohammed, how is the third day of the ITF going?
On the third day today of the Intra-African Trade Fair, IATF 2025, being held here in Algeria, and precisely from the International Exhibition Center, people are still coming in large numbers and crowds to attend the activities and proceedings of this major African event. Many panel discussions, many conferences and workshops have been held, master classes, a panel discussion bringing together the president of the Afrexim Bank, the bank which is financing many projects in Africa, as well as the AFCFTA, a panel discussion bringing together the presidents of the Afrexim Bank and the AFCFTA was held to give more insight about the project that exists in Africa and how these two institutions could contribute in developing intra-African trade and overcoming all the hurdles and obstacles that the African continents and African operators are confronted with in their daily work. The event is still going on, 3 more days to go until the closure, and Radio Algeria International will be here to keep you updated with the latest as usual. From the International Exhibition Center in Algiers, that was Mohammed Khatel for Radio Algeria International.
Thank you, Mohammed, for the update. Algeria has announced at the Inter-African Trade Fair 2025 that it will double scholarships to African countries and launch an African Institute for Vocational Training. The Minister of Vocational Training and Education, Yassine Ouelid, stressed that the decision reflects the importance Algeria gives to its African belonging.
الجزائر بلد استثمر كثيرا في العقود الماضية في مجال تكوين الإطارات على مستوى القارة الإفريقية.
Algeria is a country that has invested a lot in the past decades in training executives on the African continent, and this was one of the most prominent statements that Mr. President of the Republic said. He said Algeria has trained tens of thousands of executives from various African countries without propaganda. Every year we grant at least 500 scholarships to African students. This year we will double scholarships to African countries, and we will also launch in the coming weeks an African Institute for Vocational Training in Boumerdès. All these efforts reflect the importance that Algeria gives to its African belonging and also the will of our ministerial department to share with various sister African countries Algeria's successful experience in the field of vocational training.
The Minister of Knowledge, Economy, Startups and Microenterprises, Nordin Wede, for his part said that the strong turnout, especially from young innovators and students, shows the importance of the event.
Your presence with us today reflects the importance of this event, given the significant number of participants, including young innovators and university students who are participating en masse with us. Our goal is to establish interaction with the African and international bodies, providing opportunities for young people to first succeed in their own country and then compete in African and international markets.
Let's recall that the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has affirmed a strong and sustained commitment to supporting African students through scholarship programs, infrastructure investments during his presidency. Earlier, the Minister of Foreign Trade and Export Promotion, Kamil Rizig, has met with several African trade ministers at the International Conference Centre to discuss ways of strengthening and developing intra-African trade. The meetings took place on the sidelines of the ministerial roundtable organised under the theme Intra-African Trade from Vision to Reality towards the multiplication of trade by 2030, as part of the 4th edition of the Intra-African Trade Fair, AITF 2025, taking place here in Algiers. Mr. Rizig received the trade ministers of Chad, Burundi, Uganda and the Central African Republic. Ahead of the roundtable, the minister had also received the Tunisian Minister of Trade and Export Development and the Mauritanian Minister of Trade and Tourism. At the end of this meeting, Mr. Rizig specified that they are part of the implementation of the instructions given by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, notably in his speech at the opening of the EITF 2025 in favour of the intensification and development of cooperation. The minister added that these meetings aim to examine ways of promoting and strengthening intra-African trade, underlining that Algerian products are renowned for their quality. The Director General of the Algerian Investment Promotion Agency, Omar Rakesh, has stressed that Algeria, thanks to its investment and trade opportunities and its development potential, is strengthening its position as a key player in the dynamics of African economic integration. The Secretary of State to the Minister of Foreign Affairs in charge of African Affairs, Salma Bakhta Mansouri, spoke at the opening of the Mini-Summit of African Investment Promotion Agencies organized by the Algerian Investment Promotion Agency in collaboration with the African Export-Import Bank, Afreximbank, and the World Association of Investment Promotion Agencies on the sidelines of the fair's activities. In her speech made on the occasion, she recalled the foundation of the vision of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, who stated that investment is a sovereign and strategic choice for Africa and that unleashing the continent's energies requires the construction of a strong and integrating economy capable of asserting itself in the international system. She also stressed that continental integration is the best way to transform the immense natural and human potential into a driving force for sustainable development. The Secretary of State to the Minister of Foreign Affairs in charge of the National Community Abroad, Soufiane Chaib, said that the success of the African Diaspora Day organized as part of the 4th edition of the AITF here in Algiers reflected the interest shown by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, in the diaspora, which was reflected in the strong participation of members of the national community abroad. In a speech delivered at the close of the African Diaspora Day event, Chaib said that it had been marked by rigorous organization, fruitful debates, and constructive contribution, which highlighted its importance and made it an exceptional event in every respect. The Secretary of State held the high-level participation and strong presence of African diasporas from all over the world, in addition to the remarkable participation of the Algerian community abroad, represented by more than 250 participants. Speaking at the press conference held at the end of the African Diaspora Day event, Mr. Chaib stressed that the edition, the second of its kind, had been exceptional, notably due to the high-level official presence at the opening ceremony of several heads of state and government from Africa and the Caribbean, representing the 6th region in terms of African diasporas. He also highlighted the participation of African diasporas from different countries around the world, as well as the strong presence of the Algerian community abroad, which actively contributed to the proceedings. And in Palestine, at least 68 Palestinians were killed and 360 others wounded in the Gaza Strip over the last 24 hours, as the death toll of Palestinians killed by the Israeli occupying forces in the besieged enclave has increased to 368 people killed. Hospitals also recorded 6 additional deaths from starvation and severe malnutrition in the last 24 hours, raising the total number of starvation-related fatalities in the region to 382, including 135 children. Health authorities reported that emergency teams remain unable to reach the casualties and bodies still trapped beneath the rubble or lying on roads throughout the war-torn enclave, as the Israeli occupying forces continue to target ambulances and civil defense crews. Meanwhile, Israel's devastating offensive presses on unabated, despite appeals from the United Nations Security Council for an immediate ceasefire and rulings from the International Court of Justice calling for urgent steps to prevent genocide and ease the catastrophic humanitarian crisis in Gaza. The Israeli occupation army has once again ordered all Palestinians in Gaza City to evacuate and head south as the intensity of the violent shelling continues to escalate, primarily targeting dilapidated residential towers. In a post on social media, the occupation called on all residents of Gaza City to evacuate south toward the Khan Yunis neighborhood, which it claims is a humanitarian zone. In fact, no such safe zone exists, as every part of the Gaza Strip has been targeted with bombardment, including hospitals, schools, and UN facilities, which have been converted into shelters for the displaced. The Israeli occupying authorities' statements regarding the displacement of residents from the Gaza Strip have been widely rejected by Palestinians, Arabs, and the international community. The Arab Parliament, as well as Egypt, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, strongly condemned the repeated statement by the Prime Minister of the Israeli occupation, Benjamin Netanyahu, about forcibly displacing Palestinians from their land, including through the Rafah border crossing that Israeli forces completely sealed. Amnesty International warned Israel's escalating assault on Gaza City will have catastrophic and irreversible consequences for Palestinians. Meanwhile, Belgian Foreign Minister Maxime Prévost says the EU's credibility in foreign policy is collapsing because of the bloc's failure to act over Israel's war on Gaza. And that's it for today's news bulletin. I invite you now to listen to our special interview by my colleague Mohamed Khatel. Stay tuned on Radio Algeria International.